Hello, Otafest listeners, and welcome back to yet another Otafest podcast. It is the time of the podcast, and I am hosting. This is Jay. I'm joined by Nancy
Hello.
and Angelo.
Question mark?
Angelo!
Angelo, where did you go?
Hello. Angelo is not currently here right now.
Suspicious.
In the meantime, we have some news and announcements, starting with a big one. True is coming to Otafest.
Yay!
Miho Karasawa, known as True, is a Japanese singer and lyricist from Tokyo. Well known for her incredible performances of theme songs to several animes such as Sound Euphonium, Mobile Suit Gundam, Iron-Blooded Orphans, World End Sukasuka, and Violet Evergarden, as well as That Time I Got Reincarnated as a Slime, and many more. You can catch her Friday night concert at Otafest Amplified and additional guest appearances.
And Otafest Sketch Drive application is now open. If you're a passionate sketch artist looking to give back to the community, come be a part of this beloved activity at our festival. Applications will close on February 25th, 2024, so please get yours in now. Apply at otafest.com/sketchdrive.
Yay! I'm
so excited. Our sketch artists are so talented. I love them.
Yeah, I've spoused upon this many episodes because every time we do these announcements, it just gives me good memories of these events that we hold. Sketch Drive being one of them because it's such a community, local-oriented event, generally speaking, featuring lots of local artists and their art styles and the way that they give back to the community through partial charity donations of their artwork. It's just a good time. It's just a really good time.
Yeah, it really drives home that feeling when you're making announcements about like, hey, we're opening applications for this, and you immediately remember what it was like last year, and then you go, oh, it's going to be even better this year. It's going to be even better. It's going to be even more awesome. And that's always what it feels like when we're like, hey, applications for Made in Butler Cafe open or whatever. And it's always just like, oh, I remember that year when we did this and it was fantastic. I know it's going to be a great time this year.
Same goes for Otafest Amplified, our big concert. We've basically announced our big headliner, True. She's a fantastic performer. You will have we all listed, as always, partial credits and everything like that, but she's got her fingers in a lot of openings and endings and movie credits and things like that. We're really excited to be bringing her. Not to make it sound terrible, but the idea is, it's been a while since we brought a Japanese performer.
Yeah.
And our staff, especially our Japanese guest coordination staff, have worked very hard, and I really appreciate the work that they've put in so far, and I really hope that everybody shows up for Amplified because I genuinely believe it's one of the best things that we bring. Yes, of course, lots of cons have concerts and they bring in their individual guests and whatever, but I think the vibe that we bring specifically is pretty chef's kiss. So
yeah, the energy in that big ballroom downstairs is unmatched. It's so on fire. Everything is on fire.
It's a good way to start your
weekend
main con, once you kind of kick off that Friday night after our opening ceremonies and everything like that. And then you get to go into Saturday feeling great, and you're gonna do so many things, more guests, cosplay, everything. But I think the concert is a big kickoff point, and it's not even because I have a hand in doing any of that. I think it's just the best way to do it. It's just a big dance, big concert, dance your heart out, put your cosplay on. You could do a specific cosplay. I know some people really do. like bring out kind of the rave costumes, the LEDs and stuff.
Oh
It's
yeah.
super fun.
Oh yeah.
So
I love when the DJ starts dropping, like for the dance party portion, when the DJ starts dropping like all these really really awesome remixes of
mhm.
well-known themes, and the crowd just goes wild. It's incredible
Yes,
to watch.
it's
It's
just
really
a
hard not to get
completely
swept up in
different thing.
it.
Yeah, absolutely different thing from the rest of the con, but it's all included on your con ticket. You know, we don't sell it as a separate event. You get to come to the concert just because we are holding a concert as part of the convention. So no need to go out and buy new tickets. It's just included. Come have fun. But
Yeah.
most people already know. If you're listening to the podcast, you already know what the vibe is. So I'll see you there.
So I've often wondered to myself how people can go to Amplified on Friday night and still be standing like the next morning for the busiest day of the con, Saturday. I I like to think that I deal with sleep deprivation well, but I know a lot of people who don't, and they get through it by sheer willpower and maybe caffeine.
It's definitely caffeine fueled. I think it's also good vibe fueled, right? Like you're
It
seeing
is.
your like a lot of, I know that a lot of people um basically treat a convention as
Their big
a way to
social
get
event.
together.
Yeah.
Exactly. So like you're seeing friends you haven't seen maybe for a year or half a year since the last event or whatnot. Uh you definitely get this just boost of hey, like I'm chilling, I'm at home with my people, my tribe, you know, we're cosplaying or we're going to play video games together or we're going to go watch AMVs together or whatever it is. There's just so much to do. It's like how could you not have a good time? Yeah, I feel like you're almost, for lack of a better term, you almost you'd have to find an excuse to have a bad time, you know? You're shutting yourself off if you're like not having a good time somehow. Yeah, this place wasn't for you in the first place. Cons might not be for you for the first place in the first
That
place.
that said though, like the space around Amplified, you can almost always find a pocket to just go breathe if you just need to step out of
True.
the big performance hall and just like go find a
Mm-hmm.
quiet spot for a few minutes. It's pretty good for that.
Yep. We get that there's like sensory overload at the con in general. There are quiet spots. We actually uh it's funny because we do receive feedback about like, oh, we wish there were more like quiet spots or whatnot.
Mm-hmm.
And we try to solve them by creating places where there are still things to do because we can't just afford like an empty room with chairs because that doesn't, even though that might be appealing in some way, like a purely quiet room, we can't really afford not to have content in a sense. But that's why the things like manga library exist. That's why things
I
like
was just gonna say.
uh exactly like the Gundam hangar exists. Like you can just chill and they usually have a episode or movie of Gundam going on, and then if you want, you can pick up a free kit to just or a donation kit to build. Like it's very much we have spill chill spaces, spill
Wasn't
chases.
wasn't didn't we have like a giant Snorlax somewhere last year? Was it in the manga library?
I have heard legend of a
Legend.
giant Snorlax who inhibits within such manga library. I, as a con staffer, do not have such luxuries to be going to quiet spots
You're
because if
not
I go to a
wrong.
quiet spot, it's because I'm about to pass out for a nap or full on sleep for the next day of con. So I cannot bring my poke flute along and have go hunting for Snorlax, but I think it's in the manga library. Don't take my word for it.
That's got to be like the most wholesome stuffy hug that you could give. Just go hug a giant Snorlax. It'll make everything better.
There's also Pokemon Company has released like this is not new, but like for awareness sake, there's also a like life-size Lapras and a life-size Spheal. And for people who don't know what Spheal is, it is a spherical seal, which is I think like 4 foot by 4 foot, which is quite large and plushy. And
I
Lapras, of
have
course,
I
is a
have
tiny
a
puppy.
small seal at home that's about 1.5 feet by 1.5 feet. So if there's a
Yeah,
4 foot version of the one I'm thinking of, oh no. But oh
yeah,
yes.
it's very cute. It's very bouncy. Um, Maybe one day we can incorporate those into more quiet spaces. Like board game area is kind of, well, tabletop gaming area is probably kind of chill.
That or no,
But
some of those games get heated.
yeah, I was just about to say that. Just as I was saying that, I'm like, no, then there's the tabletop lawyering going on. And I don't know. I, again, do not get to experience such tranquil spaces that we have created.
Indulgences. You make it sound like
No,
this is an indulgence.
it is an indulgence if you're con staffer. You'd be like, what are you doing being horizontal somewhere?
Get back
You
to
better learn how to.
work.
Exactly. You better learn how to sleep standing up during the con if you need sleep. No, it's not that bad. We do actually, we do a lot of self care at the con.
Yes.
People,
And a lot of
yeah,
it is between staffers. Like there are staffers going around reminding other staffers to take care of
yeah.
themselves.
We have a team called like Provisions, which has been a part of us for maybe about 3 years. And you'd be like, well, Otafest is 25 years. Shouldn't you have done that before? You shush. We got here the way we got
Look,
here.
look, we are always changing and moving forward and hopefully always for the better.
Yes, learning is the key
Learning.
word here.
Learning.
Learning.
Yes.
But yeah, we do
Provisions
take care
has
of each
been
other.
wonderful because it's staffed by our con moms, and our con moms come around with food that'll give you energy, food that will keep you full, food that'll keep you from having a hypoglycemic crash. Nancy raising her hand because she absolutely does that.
Outing yourself.
Food, yeah, make sure you're hydrated, and they come around and they make sure you're taken care of. We do it for a lot of people in Artist Alley and our vendors as well, and we don't not take
Yeah,
care of our staff at the same time.
exactly. So that's always good. If you think about staffing and volunteering, you can always come back because we're like, yay, people. But anyways, aside from all that,
Hmm.
what's up with you, Nance? What do you got going on?
Yo, so I went to the mall for the first time since, I'm gonna say since like the Christmas rush.
Sure.
And I noticed something interesting. There was a lot of Lunar New Year advertising like up, like big posters, banners, whatever.
Mm-hmm.
But like
Mm-hmm.
they're in places I don't expect them to be. So
Yeah,
for
online
example,
too.
I walked past a store that's been there for a really long time, and they sell like house stuff. They sell like bedding and quilts, and
Sure.
they had a big Lunar New Year like 恭喜发财
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
2024, and I was like, huh, okay, that's new, but also thanks.
That's that's where I've seen some things where like I've seen a lot of online advertisements for online products. And by the way, when I'm saying like online products, I'm not saying like buy a traditional set of Chinese clothing to celebrate Lunar Year's. I'm saying like popular shoe brands are
Yes,
getting into the year of the dragon. And I'm wondering if it's because it's like dragon, because people are always like, oh, Asians and dragons are a thing. Look, I'm
maybe.
throwing it out there because like no one out here celebrating like rats or like sheep. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I
That's
feel
what it feels
seen.
like a little bit. Like this year it seems like it's a little bigger than
Do
normal
you do
the
you think it's because
commercialization.
the Yakuza games have gotten really big in the last few years?
They're not called Yakuza anymore, thank you. And there was one that just released recently, thank you. It's called Like a Dragon series, thank
I
you.
wonder if that might be relevant.
Maybe. But the funny thing is, the Japanese don't really celebrate Lunar New Year. It's not such a
No.
thing in Japan. It's
Japanese
a
New Year is
Vietnamese.
the regular solar calendar. Yeah.
Yeah, Vietnamese, Koreans, and the Chinese are basically the big drivers for Lunar New Year's.
Mm-hmm.
For people who didn't know, I didn't know this for a long time. I kind of just thought if you're Asian, you'll probably celebrate the New Year
I thought
because
that
I don't
growing
know,
up
why not?
too.
Yeah,
Yeah,
because it's
I
just
did
like a big
too.
fun time. You know what I mean? So I was just like, everybody celebrates, right? But turns out Japanese don't really.
No.
Philippines don't.
Mm.
Thai doesn't really, as far as I'm
Hmm.
aware. Like, it's very much Vietnamese, Chinese, Koreans.
Interesting. Yeah, I found
Yeah,
out about Japan having the same like New Year as can we call it the Western world maybe?
yeah,
Uh
yeah.
like oh, I want to say in university when I was learning Japanese. So when I was
Mm,
actually doing my like 3 years of studying Japanese language, the topic of New Year came up and they were like, "Yeah, we celebrate on New Year Day." We do like big
mm-hmm,
things for New Year's. Like there's a really popular program on TV that a lot of people watch. There's fireworks. There's a
mm-hmm,
specific
mm-hmm,
type of feast that they have to the right before New Year's, so like New Year's Eve, and then on New Year's Day, there's like a big family gathering, and y'all eat like specific kinds of foods. And
mm-hmm,
a
mm-hmm,
lot of that sounds very similar to the way my family celebrates Lunar New Year. There's like a specific meal you have to end the year, and then there's a specific meal you have to open the new year. And
mm-hmm,
it's very interesting and full of like tradition and pun play.
mm-hmm. There's a lot of home traditions that people do, like cleaning house, cutting of hair,
Yep.
filling
Wash your
of like
car.
yeah, filling of like pantry kind of like making sure that everything is nice
Stocked.
and ready, yeah,
Mm-hmm.
to like start on a good foot.
Mm-hmm.
That being said, going back to the whole like commercialization of it, because that's what I'm seeing for this year so far. I don't know moving forward if it's going to be a bigger thing when it's not a dragon year, a cool mythical animal.
I don't
um
know, but I am actually kind of tempted by these shoes I saw that were like special edition red sneakers with like the
I know
gold
what you're talking
embroidery on the
about.
heel, and I
I know
want
what you're
it.
talking
I
about,
actually kind of want it. I never thought I would
but you're
want
not
something like
gonna
that.
wear it.
But no, hold on, no. I will at least wear them once because it is a New Year tradition to wear new shoes and go outside for a walk around the block because it's supposed to symbolize you stepping on like all the bad spirits that might be trying to get into the new year.
Sure. I just know that they came in red and white versions. The red has gold embroidery. The white
Red?
version has red
Yeah.
embroidery. Yes, they look cool. Feels like you'll never wear them or you'll go insane trying to keep them clean. That's what I really feel about. And
That's
and the
that's
other thing is
me with white
they're not
shoes.
it's not like this company is like an Asian based company. Like it's not a it is, I'm pretty sure, American through and
Um,
through.
the one I'm thinking of is a Canadian company at least.
Is it really?
And the one I'm thinking of is a Canadian company and they are based out of a city that has a very large like Asian population. So that might play part of it.
Maybe, but I think they just have a Canadian branch. It doesn't matter. The point being, like I've gone to leading up to Lunar New Year, which is it's a little bit late this year. It's on the 10th of February, so it's more than a week away still. But like
Mhm.
I've gone to a friggin' Walmart, and in the Walmart there's this big banner, and I think to a point, to their credit, it's not in English at all. The banner I saw is fully in Chinese script, saying like
Yeah.
Chinese New Year, happy
Yeah.
or Happy New Year, and I'm just like, interesting. Don't think I've ever seen that before. I don't know if I care, in a sense, but again, let's see what happens when it's Year of the Rat or Year of the Dog. Are they gonna Year of the Pig? Are you gonna care to put up? You gonna get some pig sneakers up in here? Are we gonna get some? You know, I think there's some mysticism involved. Maybe a little bit of
Maybe.
appropriation. I feel
Maybe.
like.
We'll see. We'll see. But like I said, that one random banner, like a couple of the random banners I happened to cross at the mall, they were in Chinese too. I mean, yeah, there
Yeah.
was like a Lunar New Year 2024 across the bottom, but the
Mm.
majority of the loud scripting was all Chinese characters. So I don't know.
I don't. Yeah. It remains to be seen. I mean, at the end of the day, uh, Lunar New Year has always been a very shared event. I found,
Mm-hmm.
so I don't mind.
Mm-hmm.
Like I don't gatekeep. I just want to know if it's being overly, overtly commercialized, because that I
Appropriated
kind
for
of find,
commercial reasons.
yeah, that I have more
Yeah.
of a problem with. But like, yo, anyone can come to any, Lunar New Year dinner I host. I don't care. It's just
Why
about
not?
having a
There's
good time.
always way too much food anyway.
True. Those 10-course meals don't eat themselves.
Nope, they don't. Or
Yeah.
those. Yeah, it's 10. Because it usually ends up being 10 because it's an 8-course meal with 2 desserts.
Yep.
So yeah.
What's your favorite part?
I want to say that it's the brown sugar pudding cake thing that you can pan fry.
Ooh, okay.
Because my mom makes like the wafer style sugar, like the brown sugar that we can get, and it comes in like long wafers. If you
Yes.
take that and you melt it down,
Mm-hmm.
you add like some tapioca starch to it, and you
Mm-hmm.
steam it. It turns into this big round cake, basically, but it's like a pudding cake. But it's
Mm-hmm.
really it's like a sturdy gelatinized, like you know how like Jello, for example, it can
Mm-hmm.
just start dissolving at room temperature. That not this one. So it's a very sturdy pudding, and then what you can do is you can slice it up and then you pan fry it, and when you toast up the sides it gets crispy on the outside and gooey on the inside like a marshmallow.
Mm-hmm.
Love it.
I'm always about the dumplings.
The deep fried ones.
Like, well, like because they're in a crescent. You can do a crescent shape, or you can do them in like. There's kind of like these for people who don't know. There's kind of like this traditional form of like a Chinese gold ingot, which is like that little, like that rounded top, and
It
then
looks like a boat.
like a crescent. Yeah,
It looks like a
and
boat.
yep, it does look like a boat, or almost kind of like a hat sometimes. I don't know. All I'm saying is that I just like dumplings in pretty much any form. So
So
having
my mom
a
makes.
traditional excuse is great.
Yeah. Well, my mom makes two kinds. She makes a crescent shape, golden esque one. And that one usually
Mm-hmm.
has like a savory meat filling in it. And then she makes a
Mm-hmm.
sweet one, but those ones come in like basically spherical. And the dough
Mm.
is a glutinous rice dough. So it's like a mochi dough, but it has sweet potato. So like the orange yams like mixed into the dough.
Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
when you deep fry it, it gets extra golden, but when you bite it open, it's like this really rich, peachy kind of color. And then inside that is like a nice big dollop of red bean paste, and it's just
Mm-hmm.
perfect. I love those ones. Those are my favorite.
I being this is gonna sound bad. There's so many like dinners that I'm part of for Lunar New Year that like I get overwhelmed, not because of the people or like the company, but it's because like generally speaking, you kind of get this like set menu at a restaurant
Mm-hmm.
often,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm always like, but I just had this like last week or a few days ago. And I'm just one of those people who can't eat too much of the same thing because it just becomes uninteresting in my mouth, to say the least. I don't know how to put it any better than that. Like
What
I'm
what
not into it.
degree? Yeah, but what degree is it? Like, could you have two meals 2 days in a row, but like that same meal isn't repeated for another month or so? Like,
Yes,
could you
that's
have
if it's like if it
leftovers?
hasn't been repeated for a whole month, that's easy. If it hasn't been repeated for 2 weeks, that's probably my point. But the moment I have to eat it, like this is not no, this is a very general blanket statement. If I have to eat it twice uh in a row, that's probably okay because I'm still in like maybe the mood for it. But if I have to eat it twice in a week on non-consecutive days, I probably will like it even less because I've already satisfied the first craving or satisfied like the first time I've had it, so I don't want to really have it again in the week. Does that make sense?
So I'm a pretty good person for leftovers. And I do think that makes sense because you wouldn't have had them in non-consecutive days unless you didn't feel like having it that second day.
Yeah.
So I think if I, for example, if I went out for like pho, for example, if I went out for pho and it was good and I went home and I felt great, and the next day I thought to myself, that was really good. I have a craving for another one. I might actually be willing enough to go out and just get it again. Depends on the amount of effort required to go out and do the same thing again. But if I have more convenient food around, then I probably won't. Like
Of
a lot
any
of
other
my
variety, right?
well, a lot of my food choices are kind of dictated by convenience. Like if I made, and I did this, I made a giant beef stew. I took an entire roast from Costco. So we're talking like a Costco-sized roast. I turned it into a delightful beef stew. I put so much red wine in that thing. Don't even tell anybody. But it was so good. And I had it for like 3 days straight for almost every non-breakfast meal. And I was okay with it because I switch it up, right? I can put it on rice. I can have it with toast. I can like
There are
have it with different things.
Delivery methods, shall we say?
Sure,
Or
but
side dishes. Or...
the stew itself was fine, right? If I were to have just the stew by itself 5 days in a row, that would be way too much. Like at that point, I would just be eating out of sheer stubbornness because I don't like wasting food.
I definitely agree, but it goes to a further extent for me where like there is a craving period, the satisfaction of craving, which is again like I can have it maybe 2 days in a row. Like if it's, for example, I haven't had lasagna in a while, I'll have 2 servings of lasagna on consecutive days or whatever, and then, but don't ask me to have it on the third day. I don't want it for lunch. Don't want it for dinner on the third day. Or if I eat it the first day and then I skip a couple days, I still don't want to have lasagna because I've already hit the mark on that first attempt.
Would you freeze it for way later?
I've never really done so because I also don't want to, I don't like freezing food that often where the consistency will change after you reheat it in some way. I've never tried on too many foods. Like soup isn't something I freeze. I will freeze broth, which is different. But as for things that are not like homogeneous, such as lasagna, for example, where there's like cheese and then pasta and then sauce, all different things, I imagine it probably freezes okay because you buy it frozen sometimes from a, grocery store or something. I just don't do it. So I kind of have, I probably make it more difficult on myself by not making as many servings of any one thing at a time because I just don't want to be bored of the food I'm making or eating.
That's fair.
It's way more difficult. I wish I could just chicken and rice like a lot of people kind of just do and just be okay with it. I really am dissatisfied. And I really think that I eat food for pleasure way more often than I actually eat it for nutrition, which doesn't really make sense. You have to eat for nutrition, but I don't like having to eat. I like wanting to eat.
I agree. I used to know people at the office, like coworkers of mine, who immediately signed up for that new like smoothie meal replacement thing that came out like years ago. What was it called? Yeah, Soylent. They signed up for Soylent right when it was announced because they were like, yeah, that's great. Now I don't have to waste time eating. And I'm like, are you okay with just eating like a blended smoothie for every meal? Like every meal. It is supposed to be every meal that you have.
Hmm.
And they're like, yeah, I don't like eating anyway. It takes so long and I don't even like really like eating food. And I was just like, you are an alien to me. I don't understand this existence.
I understand people who don't like cooking,
Yeah,
because cooking is a much more developed skill that does involve, gathering,
it's
preparation,
effort
technique.
intensive.
Yes, like cooking.
Doesn't have to be depending on what you
Yeah,
make, but
yeah,
cooking more than just using a microwave or boiling some water is probably perceived as higher effort or effort
yeah. Or
intensive.
intimidating, right? For some people
Sure.
who don't have that skill.
Mm-hmm.
I enjoy cooking, not to a point where I
As
want
do
to be
I.
like a chef or a professional. But yes, I know Nancy also enjoys baking and cooking, so it doesn't seem as much of a chore if you enjoy it. That being said, not enjoying eating is like taboo in Asian culture. It is. We're taught to enjoy food. Everything from texture and temperature, and then of course taste. Like it goes into the whole like Lunar New Year celebration thing too, or like you want to talk about birthdays, special days, whatever it might be. But like you have to enjoy food as an Asian. I'm not saying you have to be a professional food blogger or something like that, but certainly it's taught that, we gather for food, we enjoy the different things that food can bring in terms of its varieties, whether it's,
Textures,
yeah,
flavors.
bitterness, sweet. Like a lot of Western food doesn't have bitterness in it, unless it's just like, I don't know, a raw broccoli or something like that, or Brussels sprouts, I
Burnt.
guess. Yeah. But like there are very bitter foods in Asian culture, but you can still appreciate them. You don't have to eat a lot of it.
And they're considered delicacies.
Mm-hmm. It's true. It's the overall appreciation of the meal. But
Yeah. And
that being
then
said, I still don't want to eat. I still don't want to repeat eating the same thing over and over again. I just can't. Not even my favorite foods. I cannot.
I was really more just curious about your specific threshold for repeats. Cuz I feel like you're more you crave variety more than I do. Like in
I'm
a
bad
way that
for
it
it.
inhibits your enjoyment of your current meal. Whereas I can eat a meal as long as it tastes good and is something I like, I won't mind having it for repeats for a longer period than I think your tolerance is at.
I don't. It's very specific. Like I said, I don't want to eat the same thing I ate for dinner, from what I ate for lunch. But I will eat for lunch the next day the same thing I had for lunch the previous day, because there's, again, maybe a continuation of the prior, um like, craving. That being said, on the first point about lunch and dinner not being the same, it's not like I don't, like, I don't go like, oh, pancakes are only for breakfast. Like I'll eat cereal at night. I don't care. Like I don't break any food down into like breakfast only, or
Oh
dinner
no, I'm
only, or
not.
something
I'm
like
not
that.
like that either. I'll have
Yeah.
breakfast foods for dinner if I want.
Yeah, I will eat whenever and whatever, but just don't ask me to eat it more than twice in on consecutive days. That's basically it.
Interesting. That's an interesting rule.
I it, it's destructive. It's self-destructive. It's probably not the best habit, and I wish I could get rid of it. But there are very few things I enjoy on consecutive days.
Again, I just have a higher tolerance for it. It's very personal.
Most people probably do. I think I'm in like a stupid like 5% of the population kind of thing where most people are willing to. But anyways, enough of that.
Speaking of the ruining of enjoyment of things though,
Yes.
Jay said something really interesting to me earlier along the lines of, yeah, but Nancy, you have like, industry experience into things like voice acting all the time. So I'm sure you have a different view of like blah 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 blah. And like my
Hmm.
brain started spiraling out from about when Jay said that to, you know what voice acting has ruined for me? YouTube content. Just
Ooh.
random YouTube content. And I don't mean that it's bad content. It's actually excellent content, but it's being narrated by someone who hasn't been trained in narration or voiceover. And so they tend to fall into really strange patterns that I pick up and I can't listen to. So sometimes we'll put on something that is, and I'm not even kidding, geopolitical history. It's great content.
Okay.
It sets a lot of contextual precedent for things that are happening out in the world right now. And I can't stand them because I can't listen to it. I can watch the video fine with subtitles but no sound. But the voiceover director that lives in the back of my head rent-free goes, stop following that specific cadence of speech, and please stop ending your sentences like you're gonna end them and then you don't. And it's really interesting because I'm pretty sure that before I became a voice actor 15 years ago, I would never have known to look out for these things. And these are things that you don't listen for unless you're in the industry. Mm-hmm. Truly. I have had video games ruined because, and I am the one ruining them because Sean will be sitting next to me playing a game perfectly fine. We're enjoying it. It's great. And then my ear picks up on something. Now I get really annoyed and he goes, "Why are you making that face? I thought you were enjoying this game." I'm like, "I know, but their microphone is off axis." And he goes, "What are you talking about?" I'm like, "Hey, anytime this character speaks, listen. Their mic is off axis, and you can hear in the pickup pattern that it wasn't corrected by the audio engineer." And he just goes, "I don't know what you're talking about." I'm like, "It sounds like this person isn't facing you when they're talking to you." And he goes, "Oh no, I can hear it now. I can't unhear it now." And I've done the same thing with a different game where I said, "Oh, that's weird. This voice actor didn't have a pop filter on their microphone. They're peaking every time they puff in the microphone, or they have a super sibilant consonant that they say or pronounce." And he goes, "What?" I'm like, "Listen, anytime there's a P in any word, it puffs." And he's like, "Oh, for the love of, do you have to do that?" I'm like, "Well, I could just not tell you, and then you'll think I am hating the game for all the wrong reasons." And I've done this so much. Our relationship is completely fraught with moments where I go, "Oh, I can't listen to this guy." And he's like, "Why don't you like Aussies?" And I'm like, "It's not because he's an Aussie. It's because of the very specific cadence that he delivers every single one of his sentences in." It's, for the record, it is very difficult to read copy in a way that doesn't sound like you're reading. It is a very difficult thing to learn, and it is a very difficult thing to master well, especially if it's copy that you yourself didn't write, so you're not super familiar with it, or if it's copy that's just been handed to you and you have no idea what you're reading. It takes a lot of skill to do that.
I feel like that's ingrained from school, when like in class you would be asked to read excerpts, but you're reading excerpts not in a way that is
spoken.
Like the way that you talk and the way that you read out loud are not the same things. It's funny because I don't think I realized this until you just pointed that out, but then the moment you said it, it's like, yeah, that makes sense. I know that I don't speak the way it's written. Most people are probably not even able to do the reverse, which is to write the way you speak. I think there is a certain, like, the way that I talk is not the way I write either.
But how do you message your friends?
Friends? Easy joke.
Okay, but how do you message your friends? How do you text me?
Poorly.
Using
it really a shitload of yeah,
but sort it resembles the way we interact verbally, right? There's a difference There's a difference between writing for copy and writing to your friends. But the way you write to your friends is exactly that. It's the way you would speak to them. unless you come from a background where you were taught that all written materials write like you're writing letters.
Sure.
Some people were definitely taught that in school.
I definitely agree, but I also disagree because, like, yeah, if you're texting somebody, you may speak in a more casual tone that more resembles your natural, like, speaking rhythm, cadence, and verbiage and vocabulary and all those things. But you certainly don't do that when you're writing an email, you know? And I think it's an interesting point both ways is what I'm trying to make.
It is. And that therein lays a whole bunch of different things that are very like industry specific. So a script writer who is writing things that are to be verbalized and read aloud are going to be written in a way that considers the spoken cadence. No paragraph is going to be one sentence because you're going to have a really hard time delivering an entire paragraph in one breath or with very limited breathing. The person who designs the copy to be read aloud by a narrator or a voiceover is going to write it in a way so that it's spoken and spoken well. Obviously, because you're getting copy to read as a voice actor, you don't have to make things up on the spot. You don't have to be a fantastic improv actor or a fantastic improvisational public speaker. You can trust the words that are on the page in front of you. And so when you deliver those lines, there's a certain rhythm and cadence to how to deliver that and technique and skill involved in how to make it sound like you're not reading off of a sheet of paper. Now, reading something off a sheet of paper and making it sound like you're reading a sheet of paper is one thing. Because you do that as a kid. When you read out of a textbook, it's not written in a voice that kids are going to be speaking in, even if it's the subject of study that they're doing right now. The way that they present things for a presentation isn't even going to be the same way as you would read it out of a textbook, because textbook writing is very specific.
It's academic, yeah.
It's academic, it's maybe historical, it's analytical, but the words that they use probably wouldn't be the verbiage you would use if you were giving the presentation to your class based off the same material. So there's a lot going on there, and like, again, this fully applies to not bad content. It's all good content, but it's just, it jumps out at me when certain things are amiss. So this person didn't have a director for these lines. And you can tell sometimes when you're in a game and you're playing a scene, and for the most part, this actor's been doing a great job, but then there's this one line where they just kind of, they fumbled it. And it could have been delivered in another way that would have made more sense for the rest of the chemistry between the characters, but it wasn't. And usually that's either the scriptwriter or like the director or some combination thereof, or the sometimes it's not even that. Sometimes it's the perfect take was technically wrong. Like, there was a problem in the microphone for that perfect delivery, so they had to use a different line instead of calling the actor back to redo the line. It depends on a lot of things, but there are just things sometimes that I can't not listen for now. They trip off, they set off like a couple of things in my ear when I listen for things. And it's not, again, it's not bad content. I really want to reinforce that. I would love this content even more if certain things were just tweaked, certain things were improved. But yeah, this home has a history of me ruining things.
Quit being so professional. How about that? How about becoming less educated about your profession? Or how about, have you considered being less detail oriented? Or can I get you some cotton swabs to stuff in your ears?
I don't know if any of that would even work, to be honest. You can hear through cotton swabs really well. Doesn't really stop sound.
True. I'm just trying to induce a pop filter effect for you.
Yeah, unfortunately, that's not how that works. But you know how this does work? You and I get to ride off into the sunset, and we have to go hunt down Angelo because he's gone missing.
It's true. He said he'd be here, but he isn't. So I can only presume that it's not because he's not being reliable, but because something's happened. And now
We have to go rescue
we
him.
have to get him. Mm-hmm. It is our time to be the protags.
It's my
And we're
time to
gonna go
shine.
help him. So
Good night, everyone.
we'll find him for next episode. Goodbye.
See you next time.